The large oak doors of the Jeon's hall creaked open, and a cold wave of power swept through the living room as Jungkook stepped in. His cold eyes drenched in unspoken violence, directly landed on Wine descending down the stairs. His steps halted as he watched her moving through the mansion as if she wasn't blind. A queen in her kingdom, gracefully stepping down the stairs one after another without hesitation, her fingers barely grazing the edges of the railing for reference. He kept waiting for her to stumble, to need him, to land right into his embrace. But she never did, and that pissed him off. She was about to walk past him when he stepped right in front of her. She stopped before she could collide into him as if touching him would bring her words down, and that infuriated him more. His scent announced his presence, as it was something one could never guess wrong even in a room full of people. Sandalwood and something darker, heavier, like rain-soaked asphalt. It clung to the room, pressing against her skin, filling the silence with his presence before he even spoke. Deciding to ignore him, she stepped aside to cross him once again, but he blocked her path once again. Her eyes never met his, however her words struck him where it hurt. "You are in my way. Where are you going without resistance? When you know you can hurt yourself," coldly reminded her about her situation. "You are in my way," repeated the same thing as if she didn't hear him. He clenched his jaw and closed the distance between them with slow measured steps. "Done pretending?" "Pretending what?" Tilted her head slightly in his direction, yet her eyes stared over his shoulder. "Pretending that you don't need help." Staring at her intensely. "Help?" repeated, like the world itself was ridiculous. "And even if I need help, you would be the last person I would ask." Her voice was sharp, mocking, like she wasn't just dismissing his offer, but him, like he was irrelevant. She turned away, continuing towards the dining table, her steps confident, effortless. He watched the way she barely hesitated before reaching for the chair, like she had memorized the exact distance. It was like second nature to her. She could move through the mansion like she belonged here only, like she does not need him, and never will. However, a dark thought crossed Jungkook's mind. That what would happen if the life she is used to live changes suddenly? What would happen if the world she had mastered suddenly became unrecognizable? Can't expect celebration from someone born of sin. At night, Jungkook stood in the center of the grand hall, watching as the last of the old staff filed out of the mansion. Their replacements stood in their place, new voices, new presences. Strangers. In simple words, he had changed every single staff member and guard she was familiar with. Not only that, even the furniture had been rearranged by his order too. The placements she had memorized gone. The paths she had confidently taken disrupted. Every piece of familiarity erased. Now she would stumble. Now she would hesitate. Now she would need him. Perfect. A slow smirk curled on his lips as he heard a crash echoing through the hall. Taking his time, he stepped towards the sound. In the corridor, he found her standing stiffly near the living room entrance, her hands gripping the edge of a misplaced table. "Something wrong, sweetheart?" His voice was laced with mock innocence. Vine turned her head sharply toward him. He could see it now, the moment she realized what he had done. The furniture, the voices, everything. He braced himself for the outburst, the rage, but instead she did something worse. She smiled. A smile that was chillingly perfect, yet empty. A kind of smile that coiled around his senses, too beautiful to look away from, too soulless to endure. A smile that did not reach her unseen eyes. "You think this will break me?" She spoke, stepping toward him despite the unfamiliarity of the space. She was alert but not panicking, not yet. He exhaled slowly. "Not break," he murmured. "Just remind." She asked away. "Of what?" "That you need me." His possessive gaze roamed across her face as if to calm his beast. "Go to hell," calmly questioned him. "Ladies first." A gleam of satisfaction flashed across his sinister smirk. Despite wanting to snap his neck, Wine prevented by self-control and stood cold like the iceberg that drowned Titanic. Jungkook was about to take advantage of the situation and grab her hand to take her where she wanted to go, but a voice stopped his action and interrupted his intentions. Jungkook, Mrs. June has invited you to the party, stood at a distance. And how does that concern me? Look over his shoulder to glance at Yoongi without turning his body. The party is for you, since you announced your engagement. You both are invited. Who gave her the right to celebrate my decisions? Well, isn't that what mothers do? She provoked him, her voice laced with sweet mockery. Oh wait, my mistake. Stepmothers. His entire body went rigid. The weight of the word stepmother dropped like a stone in his chest. He hated that title attached to him. Hated that Wine of all people had thrown it in his face. His fist glanced at his sides as his anger curled sharp and deep. Fine. His voice deceptively calm. We are going. And trust me, darling, you'll regret making that decision for you. Mrs. June's intro. Mrs. June, a cunning, ruthless woman who slipped into Mr. June's life after Jungkook's mother's using deceit and manipulation to trap him to conceive a child. Jungkook's innocent half-sister, Jeon Nora. However, her real target was always Jungkook, with every cruel word and manipulative action. She shattered his spirit, molding him into the heartless mafia he is today. Her cold control and calculated turned his once tender heart into a rehearsed pleasantries and fake smiles welcomed them at the door as soon as Jungkook and Wine stepped inside the grand hall filled with suffocating artificial warmth. Jungkook left Wine's hand only to hold her waist in a possessive yet gentle. He did not care about the gossips and watchful eyes. Instead, he fed them all. Whereas Wine, draped in an elegant black gown, held her chin high, unfazed by the storm she was walking through. Jungkook, darling, a woman looking younger than her age, greeted with a dazzling smile. I'm so glad you made it. And you brought her. Wine barely had a moment to react before he pulled her impossibly closer. His touch no longer assured, but something territorial, something dangerous. His finger traced a slow path down her arm. And though his voice was soft, there was a warning in it only she could hear. They are watching, he murmured, breath fanning against her ear. So play nice and let me touch your smile. Mrs. June's expression remained untouched, though a glint of irritation flickered behind her practiced smile. Maya was just telling everyone how excited she was to see you again, she said, gesturing to Maya, who was standing beside her, staring at Jungkook non-stop. We met a few days ago, but it feels like an eternity. Jungkook's grip on Wine tightened. He barely spared Maya a glance before tilting his head, dark amusement dancing in his eyes. Yet I failed to notice. Oh Jungkook, you've always been impulsive, she sighed, reaching out to touch his suit, a fake motherly gesture that reeked of control. I know you think you have made a choice, but raised his brow as if permitting her to dare if she can. Do enlighten me, Mrs. June. Mrs. Jones' lips curled into something almost pitying. Sometimes, when we rush into things, we fail to see what's better for us. Her gaze flickered to Wine, dismissive, belittling. I just worry, darling. Love should not be charity. Silence touched between them. A slow pause. Jungkook's smirk vanished. His grip on Wine was still gentle, yet his stance shifted, commanding, unreadable. He tilted his head slightly, a mockery of curiosity. You're absolutely right. That's why I never let charity cases dictate my life. You may have played house with my father, but you will never decide for me. Indirectly called Mrs. June a charity case and showed her her real place. Mrs. June's face hardened, but he could not care less. Instead, he leaned down, pressing a lingering kiss to Wine's temple, his lips grazing his skin just enough to make a statement. Now, if you'll excuse us, he said smoothly, leading Wine away. We have a party to enjoy.